Welcome educators to our virtual tasting of our Teacher's Pet Nat Pack that you've all purchased. I hope that you guys have figured out getting some of your friends together, either in person or probably virtually, to do this. We know that it's been a really challenging time for educators. All of us sitting at this table have educators in our own families, as well as grandchildren or children or cousins, nieces, nephews that are trying to find their way through virtual learning, and we applaud you all for the effort that you've put into it in this last, it seems like 10 years, but I think it's been about 10 months. So we applaud you for that. My name is Marcia. I'm the Wine Club and Marketing Director here at Buttonwood Grove Winery. If you've never visited here, we invite you to come and do that anytime. We are open every day from 10 until 5:30. Last tasting starts at 5, but please come on out and enjoy the wine trail. We are doing everything possible to keep it safe for you, socially distanced, sanitized. We have outdoor tastings available even in the winter. So please come and enjoy. And without further ado, we're going to get some sparkling wine in your glass. I am joined today by Diana Lipton, our tasting room manager, and Jenna Coppola. She just recently got married. Cheers to Jenna. Jenna Coppola, who is our assistant manager here in the tasting room, as well as at our other facility, Toro Run Winery. So without further ado, let's drink some sparkling wine. I'm turning it over to these guys.
Jenna's going to introduce our beautiful Riesling Pet Nat, because every teacher needs a pet nat.
And this is also the first of our 2020 wines. The first of the 2020 vintage to be released is this Riesling Pet Nat here. Now, if we've never had Pet Nat before, they're a bit different. They are fitted with a crown cap, as you can see that I just removed here. You want to serve it as chilled as possible. It's going to taste the best that way. These wines are made naturally. There is fermentation occurring in the bottle. There's sediment at the bottom of every bottle, and as you open the bottle and release that cap, you should see bubbles forming from the sediment up towards the top of the bottle. That proves that fermentation has occurred in the bottle. Now, if we've never had a Pet Nat before, you want to beware when you're opening them. This Riesling Pet Nat seems to be a bit mild, but there are others when they have a bit more sediment in the bottom of the bottle that can kind of foam over on you as you're opening. So typically you want to burp the bottle. For example, if we put the cap back on, you would ever so slightly pull an opening onto the cap to start to release some of that foam that's going to typically go over the top of the bottle. But this one is a bit mild, so you shouldn't have to worry. You see when you pour into your glass that there are tons of tiny little bubbles, and they are quite alive. So a bit different from your other types of sparkling, or Prosecco's, your traditional sparklings. They're very alive. They almost tickle your nose, and they're a very fresh representation of the grape itself, which in this application is Riesling.
So Marcia prepared some pairings to go with your sparkling package here, and we decided that you guys are working all day, whether it is virtual or in person or a combination of both, and we wanted to keep this simple. Also, bubbles pair really nicely with salty foods, fried foods, fatty foods. All that bubble and sparkle tends to cut through the greasiness, the oil and fat from fried foods tends to pair really well with salty foods. So we prepared some very simple things. Actually, Marcia did all of it. So we've got some mozzarella sticks. Just run to Aldi and grab a box of frozen mozzarella sticks. I think that these are Aldi as well, possibly. I know they have little charcuterie items that you can get in their deli. Marcia made some beautiful little oatmeal cookies. We've got pesto and olives. Your little package included your tasting glass as well as some olives. So just really fun to pair these very easy, simple foods so that you don't have to go home and cook while you're tasting. So
Time to treat yourself.
Yeah, treat yourself. So, ooh, I smell lots of lemon on this.
Yes, so the Riesling Pet Nat is very bright. It is, like I said, it is alive with bubbles, but the components coming from the grapes are so bright. There's a slight tartness to it. It is a perfect representation of Finger Lakes Riesling. And like Diana said, you know, these fatty kind of greasier foods will kind of cut through that tartness, and I think that they'll pair really nicely. Plus, this Riesling Pet Nat is just such a nice little treat for the afternoon. They're lower in alcohol content. They're closer to a 10% versus your standard 12% that we find in most of our still wines. So this is something that's a little more refreshing, you know, if you were to need a little lift in the afternoon or even in the morning if you were having brunch or a late breakfast.
Not while school's in session, guys.
Of course, and not while Zooming either, but treat yourself. They're a bit lighter, and they're so bright and refreshing.
I did it with the mott stick and it's delightful.
In my mind, that's exactly where I was
It's
going.
really yummy. Marcia, you should come try this with that.
I'm gonna go different from you and try it with this little pepperoni wrapped cheese charcuterie.
I like it a lot with the mott stick.
Even the popcorn would probably be great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so salty, fun finger foods. This is great.
Keep it easy, take a break, you deserve it.
So we have a handful of different kinds of sparklings here at Buttonwood Grove. Good with that?
Yeah, that worked really well together.
So, as Jenna described, our Pet Nat, or Pétillant Natural, is a naturally fermented secondary fermentation. Isn't that so good?
So good together, yeah.
Secondary fermentation happens in the bottle, and that's where those bubbles come from. Our other two sparklings that we're featuring with this lovely tasting experience are force carbonated. So we're going to move on to our Riesling bubbly next, which is again Riesling grapes, 100% Riesling grapes. What's really fun, and you guys can taste this side by side since you have your package with you, your little pack here. Same exact fruit in both of these bottles. So Riesling. This one was naturally fermented, and it definitely, you get that yeastiness. You smell the yeast when you open it. Even with the lemon in there, you smell it.
And you'll see the sediment.
And you'll see the sediment. There's nothing wrong with your bottle if there's sediment in there. It is perfectly normal. Now these are very clear. These were force carbonated. So what that means is that we made the wine, and as we were bottling, we added CO2 into the liquid at that point. And so we've got this beautiful, sparkling, everyday kind of bubbles, and really refreshing. But what's fun to notice is how the same exact fruit can present so uniquely. So hard to see from here, but these bubbles are, you know, a little more, I think a little finer, and a little refined.
I think that they're more uniform.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're more consistent.
Yep.
With the
More
Riesling
bubbles.
Pet Nat, you just don't know. It varies from bottle to bottle and even glass to glass.
Yeah, which makes them unique and
It's
fun.
so fun.
Even
They're
if
so
you were
fun.
to choose several different Riesling Pet Nat bottles from our store, each of them would contain a different amount of sediment in the bottom and would produce less or more bubbles due to that.
And I'm wondering if we want to share with these folks a little bit about Riesling and why there's so much of it here. Who
There
wants
is
to
a
jump in?
lot of Riesling.
I'll go right ahead.
Jenna,
So Riesling, said to be the grape that has put the Finger Lakes on the map against the rest of the world and all different AVAs. We have what some refer to as a cool climate. Our growing season is very short, and we are said to be comparable to Germany in that. So there are certain vinifera varietals that tend to grow a bit better for our soil types and for our microclimates that are existing off of these lakes. Of course, proximity to the water, can determine what different grape varieties you can grow, as well as what is in your soils, the minerality that the soils contain. Now, as we all know, these Finger Lakes were formed by glaciers long ago that dumped all sorts of minerality into our soils, and is the reason that we are indeed able to do this today. So Riesling, being native to Germany, which is said to be a comparable climate to ours, with similar bits of minerality in their soils, Riesling tends to be a grape that can withstand our short growing seasons, our somewhat harsh winters, and just overall our soil types and our terroir.
And it's incredibly versatile.
Absolutely,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
So
And
versatile.
here at Buttonwood, Riesling is one of the grapes that we focus on most. We have quite a variety of Rieslings on our menu. From time to time, you can find 6, 7, sometimes 8.
10 right now.
10 right now.
Yes.
Rieslings
Which
in
is
our
our
lineup.
lineup so far.
So the goal in that is to show the quality of this fruit and how well it actually does grow here in our region, and the different production methods that can be applied to that specific grape, so that it expresses itself differently and appeals to all different palates. So if you have not visited our store and Riesling is a grape that you love, definitely dive in. We've got quite a variety of Rieslings.
We've got everything from bone dry and real minerally, wet stone, beautiful dry Riesling, to our dessert wine, which is a Riesling ice wine, and that is, honey mead and florals. So the expression of Riesling can be so diverse, as Jenna was saying, and even with just these two sparklings, so different. The nose of the Pet Nat was definitely more, you get some of that yeast. You get, definitely there's citrus on the nose, but you get that yeastiness and that biscuity quality. And the Riesling bubbly rather, is much cleaner. You don't get that yeasty bread dough kind of vibe from it. It's much more fruit forward. So
Yes.
and really fun. It has a little hint of sweet in the middle,
Yep.
but it dissipates very quickly because of the bubbles. This was very interesting. I didn't expect to like it with the olives because they're lemon basil, and I was afraid it was going to be a little flashy, but I actually like it.
I'm thinking I'm going to try it with the
I was
Pesto.
gonna say with pesto, just because of that basil. Some of our wines tend to be a little bit herbaceous, especially in a cool climate. That's pretty common. And with basil-based foods or herb-based foods, they're just.
It's only going to highlight those components in the wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw in here for you guys, just as a fun fact, that it's actually 10 o'clock in the morning while we're filming this. And we really love our jobs, and hope that you love your jobs too, even during this challenging time.
Comes with the territory. I quite like, so the Riesling bubbly that we are tasting now,
That's so
the
good.
forced carbonated wines, I would describe as slightly comparable to a Prosecco, for example. Really refined bubbles, like we've said, but that coat your mouth in this froth. And so for me, pairing the bread and pesto with the Riesling bubbly,
That's
the
perfect.
slight bit of minerality and the slight bit of garlic and pine nut helped to pull those bits of minerality for me. And the mouthfeel and the softness of the way that these bubbles coat your mouth almost like completed that pairing for me. So that's what you should look for when you're pairing food and wine. Is
I need a little more
things
of
that make you go, ooh and ah.
I think it's going to be great.
Happy breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It really did. This, for me, nailed it. Like, that
Delicious.
was really perfect.
Delicious.
Nice with the popcorn too.
Yep, the popcorn's going well with both so far for
So
me.
this is microwave popcorn. The saltier and more junk food, the better in my house. And this is kind of a daily thing for me, is my bag of popcorn. Not necessarily with sparkling wine every day. But, I worked in an elementary school for many, many years, and I believe Diane.
I did too, for well
And
over a decade.
sometimes when you get home, you just need to crash for a little bit and do something quick and easy for yourself. I always had a little bit of popcorn and some tea, quite often, things like that. Take that 10 minutes when you get home from school and just crash with a little bit of bubbles in your glass.
Treat yourself.
And
You know-
popcorn.
Jenna was talking about how these flavors blended together. Salty foods tend to pair very well with almost any wine. Salt is a great accompaniment to wine. So pairing wise, you don't need it to be rocket science. And as you can see, you can keep it very simple. It doesn't need to be gourmet food. It can be very simple. Some slices of cheese, some pesto. Buy a jar of pesto, olives, fried mott sticks. The beautiful thing is that pairing, you can do a couple different things. Marcia and I did a little pairing 101 around Christmas time. And we talked about either birds of a feather flocking together, so finding similar values in your wine and your food that you pair, or opposites attracting. So having a very sweet food with a very acidic wine. Just lost my train of thought. So sorry, somebody jump in here.
Smoking, you had all.
Smoking oak.
Smoking
oak. And you know, earthy vibes that would go together. You know, Jenna talked about the earthiness of that pesto and the herbaceousness Marcia talked about pairing with that wine. So simple things, either find similarities in your wine and your food, or find opposites. That bright acidity will cut through fat.
Yeah.
Bubbles will cut through fat.
The butter of the popcorn, the tartness of the
Yes,
Riesling.
and sparkling wine.
Sparkling.
If you want to learn to pair food and wine,
Great
sparkling
place
wine
to
is
start.
actually the easiest place to start. The way, in my opinion,
I agree.
the bubbles cleanse your palate. You almost can't go wrong with pairing sparkling wine with food.
It's really true.
It really is, because those bubbles are so palate cleansing, but sparkling wines have a higher acidity than some wines, and that's because we typically pick the grapes a little bit earlier, so the sugar levels aren't quite so high, and the acid is still a little high on them. And that acid and those bubbles just seem to bring out the best flavors of almost anything.
Yep. Little pairing note also. So salty foods tend to be easy to pair with wines, and acidic wines tend to be easy to pair with foods. And I mean, that's very simplified.
And in a
but
cool climate, the vast majority of
Are
our
gonna be acidic.
vintage years, we have high acids in our wines.
Yep. Alright.
That
Moving on to Tuesday.
Let's
move
do
on to
Tuesday.
Bubbles.
Marcia, you need to tell them why Tuesday.
Yes.
So, there is a little story about why we named this wine Tuesday. Many times people will come into the bar. I've worked here, actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I've worked here for about 8 years now. And while I don't work out front in the tasting room much anymore, I'm more in the office, I did spend many years out in the tasting room serving customers. And they would try some sparkling wines and they'd say, well, it's good, but when would I drink it? What would I celebrate? And myself and one of my coworkers here would say, Tuesday, or whatever day of the week it was. If it was Thursday at noon, we'd say, we'll celebrate that it's Thursday at noon. So that name of Tuesday comes from that idea that every single day you have something to celebrate, but also that this is an everyday wine. This is something, it's accessible, it's a nice price point, it's easy to drink, you can enjoy it any time of the day. As I said, it's 10 o'clock in the morning here right now, on actually a Wednesday today. Any day of the week, any time of the day, especially right now, we have to look for things to celebrate. Celebrate the little things. Crack open a bottle of Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And the force carbonated, both of the Tuesday and the Riesling Bubbly, are also nice mixers. They can make you a fantastic mimosa, whether with
Spritzers.
orange juice, apple cider, or blackberry briar, a kir, mixing into a cocktail. There's certainly plenty to do with all of these
Yes,
sparklings.
and
The
they
pet
have a
nuts
screw
blended
cap,
all together.
so you can reseal them.
Exactly.
So they'll last you for several days.
Yes.
I just actually had a bottle of Riesling Bubbly in my fridge that I had opened, oh gosh, probably close to a week ago.
And
I
still
opened
good.
it
They're
last
still
night,
good.
And
Yeah.
they're still fine. That screw cap really does help them to stay good for a lot longer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Tuesday is a blend. So we had two Rieslings here, our Riesling Pet Nat, Riesling Bubbly. Tuesday has Riesling in it. So again, Riesling making its appearance here in the Finger Lakes, but we blended that with Cayuga White, which is a Cornell hybrid, been around for a long time. A little trivia fact that I found out, I'm sure you guys knew this because you lived here and did this wine thing forever. I moved back from the Midwest a few years ago, but Cayuga White is one of the most predominantly planted white grapes on the entire mid-Atlantic area.
Yes, and that
I
is
did not know that.
that's partially because it was one of, if not the first named white
White
grape
grape
hybrid
hybrid, yep.
from Cornell. And so
Back in the
it's
70s,
been
I
grown
believe.
commercially for almost 50 years now.
Mhm.
And so it's had time to really gain momentum here in the Northeast. And that is because it's a wonderful grape to work with. It's very easy to grow. Cornell Viticulture Program does a lot of grape development here in the Finger Lakes. It hybridizes grapes that are a little easier for us to grow sometimes, have nice flavors, are versatile, and that was one of the leaders of the pack.
So it's planted, my understanding is it's planted from the Atlantic coast all the way over to Ohio, as far north as
Michigan, I believe,
Michigan
right?
and down into southern PA. So it's planted, yeah, little
Yeah.
trivia thing I found out.
Yeah, it is very easy to work with. It tends to have a little bit of a sweeter, grapey character to it, but actually does well when you let it be a little bit drier and the citrus comes out.
Yeah.
You know, you're not tied to that idea that Cayuga White has to be a sweet wine.
It's got a really pretty nose. I didn't know.
Yes.
We've also got Cayuga tied into another sparkling in the house, our Antonia Marie, our black label Cayuga is in there as well.
Yep.
So if you like Tuesday, you would probably also like our Antonia Marie, which is a Charmant method sparkling wine. So that will have a different mouthfeel, different bubbles.
A bit drier.
Yeah, yep.
But I agree with Di, this has got a beautiful nose.
Really does.
Tuesday is a wine that I always have to have at home.
So popular.
Yep.
So popular here. Like Jenna said, it makes a great mixer. If I'm not mistaken, I'm smelling, in addition to the citrus that I smell in both of the Rieslings, I am smelling a little bit of that just lightly grapey, not enough to be foxy
Right.
or heavy.
It's
but
definitely got a
lightly
different nose
grapey.
than
Yep.
the Rieslings.
Agreed?
I like this.
Oh, I love it. I love all three of these, which is why we chose them for all of our educator friends, because you need something fun and sparkly and delicious right now.
I want to make a cake with this.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I want to make a Tuesday cake.
That's a great idea.
So,
That's a great idea.
you know, Diana is not actually being facetious.
I'm not.
We take these wines home with us, and we have fun with them. We make things with them. I keep the Tuesday or the Riesling on hand at my house a lot too. Like Jenna said, we make mixed drinks with the blackberry briar, mix them up with some different things over the holidays. We were using the Riesling bubbly with some lemonade and fresh fruit.
There you go.
Really summery.
There
Yeah,
you
it's
go.
very summery and not overly sweet. They make great hot tub wines. If you guys have the opportunity to be in a hot tub, they're great for that in the wintertime, summertime,
Really
whenever. Yeah.
Well, very celebratory having bubbles out, and we want to celebrate you teachers. Again, just thank you for the hard work that you have put in this extremely difficult year for everybody. But you know, there are people who are doing things like you folks, and we say thank you to all of our educators, whether you are a teacher or support personnel or you know, dealing with parents in the front office and dealing with all of the learning challenges that come along with having to do things virtually. We just say thank you.
And internet glitches.
Internet glitches,
Oh,
I know,
my
and
gosh.
students who maybe don't have the resources, and I know in my family, those educators are going above and beyond to make sure that every student is getting what they need, so we say thank you. And I want to revisit what Marcia said, you know, Tuesday being a wine for every day. I believe it was Brene Brown, I want to give her credit because she's a pretty stellar human, but I believe it was she who said that we need to celebrate the small epic moments of everyday living. And I feel like this lineup right here gives us a little bit of oomph and permission to do exactly that. And we want to give that permission right back to you. So I say we raise a glass to
We
these
raise a
lovely,
glass to you,
lovely
and
educators,
we
amazing
thank you
humans.
for joining into this. And again, we invite you to come. We are fully open for indoor and outdoor tastings. Lots of great teacher deals going on throughout the region for the Ithaca Loves Teachers Week. So if you have the opportunity, I believe that event has been extended all through February.
It is
this
going
year.
right to the end, till
Yeah,
February
right.
28th.
So come on down and to see us out here on the wine trail, if you don't get here in February, please try to get here sometime this spring or summer, and thank you again.
And although it's
Cheers.
cold, we've got cauldrons you can cuddle up to.
That's right.
Yes,
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Thanks,
Thank
educators.
you.